Okay, today we have Amy Stokes, who's here to talk to us about our Technique First program. Amy, you've obviously shown a fair bit of interest in improving your technique since joining the club, and you had been running for quite a long time beforehand, but you've struggled with some injuries over the years. Do you mind giving us a little bit of background on why you wanted to get involved with this course and maybe a bit about the injuries you had?
Yeah, so I joined the club, I think, back in October. And I joined the club because I'd been running for quite some time, but I just kept getting to a certain point and I'd get an injury. And I thought I needed some coaching and some help in potentially finding out why that kept happening, because I was getting quite frustrated. I'd have to go back to the beginning. And that was also part of me starting the technique course as well. I knew that potentially it could have been my style of running that was causing a problem. So doing the technique course actually was ideal because we're filmed, you can actually see what it looks like when you're running. So straight away, you can see where the problems are.
Yeah, no, awesome. And, we've done a little bit of technique in the past with the club, but nothing this, I guess, formal, where we're taking a relatively small group of people for quite a personalized session. But in the past, a lot of injury prevention has been around, we've used workshops to try and educate people on how to run better, to take pressure off things, and how to foam roll and stretch and strengthen. But no matter how much strengthening work and stretching and massage you do, you're not changing the way you run. And if the way you run is the root cause of the problem, then you're just fighting an uphill battle, aren't you?
Yeah, completely. And I think actually one of the things that the course has taught me is what the course does is it shows you where the problem is, and you can then work on kind of fixing that. It's not an overnight fix. You're not going to be at the end of the 6 weeks like an amazing runner with everything absolutely perfect. But you then start to think, when you're doing sort of either your hill reps or your tempo run or whatever it might be, oh, actually today I need to focus on my posture, or I need to focus on not crossing over my legs when I run, or whatever it might be. And it builds up over time so that you actually start to get faster with hopefully less injury as well.
Yeah, that's right. So that awareness of what you need to fix, that was kind of highlighted straight after the first session, wasn't it? Obviously, yeah. we got you on video. We didn't give any feedback when you did the initial video, but afterwards, once I'd processed those and provided you the video with feedback, what was that like to sort of get that first one back?
So for me, it was a real surprise. So you were sort of saying on my feedback, when I run, I cross my legs over as I'm running, which is why potentially I might have some problem with shin pain. And I had no idea that I did that at all. I mean, I've been running for a long time and I didn't have a clue. I just thought that was a normal way of running. So to potentially have something now where I know this is something that I can work on, and actually I might get to a point where I am going to be injury free if I keep doing all of the practices and making sure that I sort of stick to everything, then yeah, that's great. I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Yes, that's right. And obviously, each session we were doing those videos. And what was it like, sort of starting each session, having to run towards a camera and then side on to the camera, sort of knowing you're going to be assessed, each week? Was that all right, or was it a bit daunting? Or
actually, it is absolutely fine because you are there with other people and we're all doing the same thing. You don't really worry about it. Everybody's at different levels. So everybody's also got different reasons as to why they're there. So as long as you're focused on your own thing and your own reason, it's not a problem at all. And everyone's really friendly.
Yeah. And it was interesting. You mentioned the group dynamics there, the range of abilities we had. There was no real correlation between our fastest runners that were there and the best techniques as such. Like, obviously, the faster runners tended to have a bigger step over. So it was, it's more athletic, obviously. And but as far as alignment and the way things were landing and things, it wasn't necessarily that the fastest had the best technique as such. In fact, some of the slower runners had the best posture and and really good ranges of motion, really good alignment as well. So I think it was really important for me right from the start to make sure that we could make these sessions work for the different abilities, because we are going to have a range of abilities. And we had a couch to 5K runner there, as well as a sub 18 minute 5K runner. So it was important that I made the session not too intense, but also intense enough for those that were fitter, that could handle more. How do you feel like the dynamics of the group sort of went in regards to the different abilities and things going on?
So it worked really well because everything you were showing us was new for everyone.
Yeah.
It didn't matter whether you were from Couch to 5K or the fastest runner in the whole club. This was new for everyone. So we were all trying to figure out, okay, where do I put my feet and how do I make sure that I'm swinging my arms in the right place? We were all on exactly the same playing field.
Yeah. Do you feel tested at times doing some of those drills?
Yes. So one of the hardest things I found was coordination. So I think because we were putting stuff together and you're concentrating so much on one thing that you're doing, when you then add in something else, you kind of sort of feels really odd because it's not natural until you keep practicing.
Yeah. And I suppose to sort of get you thinking, a lot of us will think of running as just a very natural and simple thing that anyone can kind of do. You shouldn't need to think so much about how you run. Did your sort of perspective on that change a bit?
It's changed how I run. So I use some of my training runs now. I used to kind of look at it as it's all about running with people and just trying to be as fast as I can. Whereas now I'm actually find myself running slower, but with more focus on the actual kind of technique of how I'm running so that I potentially don't get injured going forward.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that running slower bit doesn't have to last forever. Of course, it's just, it's just if you want to be able to focus on a certain technique cue that you need to, then it's much easier to do that when you are relatively fresh. And obviously as you start to fatigue, it gets harder to focus on technique, doesn't it? And there's certainly still room to give yourself those tougher runs, and there is kind of like a golden zone really where you're able to be aware of how you're running and focus on it, but it's actually a bit of a challenge. Do you know what I mean? It's quite hard to regulate your breathing and still focus on keeping a really good technique. But we're trying to avoid that situation where you're really struggling physically, the breathing, you just can't focus on your technique anymore. When you get into that sort of zone, that's where the posture and things do tend to fall apart.
Well, we did some of that in some of the drills, I think, where you were sort of saying, right, you need to run for quite some time at 70 to 80%. And we all found sort of like third time round on the drill, it's impossible. You physically can't concentrate on everything and keep running really fast. So it was good to actually experience that, because it makes you think, okay, I'm going to concentrate on one thing this week, whether it's posture or whatever it might be, and just focus on that. And then on the next run, okay, I'm going to concentrate on my arms or whatever it might be, and just focus on one thing. And the more you practice, the more it becomes natural. But it's all about practice and not overloading what you're doing.
Yeah. We generally, in terms of the structure of the sessions, we try and make sure you've got lots of recovery time in the early parts of the session when it's, technically and coordination wise, the toughest, isn't it? The most challenging. Yeah. We can't really afford to have you huffing and puffing through that bit, because the coordination would be even worse, wouldn't it? So lots of walk back recoveries and things. But as we get further and further into the session, the runs get faster and faster. We move from drills to running. That's when it's time to sort of put you under a bit of fatigue so that it doesn't come quite as easily. But that's really all about the consolidation of the new cues and trying to make them more habit based. So do you feel like you were able to carry over some of what we learned, with the drills in particular, like maybe it was posture or the arms or what we're doing with the legs? Do you feel like you were able to carry it over from the drills to the running?
Yeah, so for me, the biggest thing that I'm taking away, I'm actually practicing running down a line, because the problem I have for injury is sort of crossing my legs over. So I'm making sure that if I keep practicing running down a line, I'm aware of it now. Some of the drills that we did also help sort of making sure that I'm putting my legs up in the right places. So yeah, and I'm focusing on it a lot more. As I said, I'm concentrating on running slower so I can focus on that. But I'm pretty sure once it's natural, I'll be able to speed up again.
Yeah, good. Okay, and the running bits that we did at the end. So after the drills, we'd move into the actual runs. How did you find those? We had some pretty windy evenings we were doing, which didn't make it much easier there.
Some of them were really intense. I really enjoyed the sprinting.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could potentially run that fast, which was nice.
Nice.
I also didn't realise how quickly you could fatigue when running that fast. But yeah, it was good to experience it. And I know now at the end of a race, I know the best posture and I know all the things to focus on. So I've got that final push.
Yeah. And you know how to go faster. If you have got enough in the tank, you know how to sprint properly now, don't you? Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
Yeah. Which is a problem that so many people come to us with. They've been running even pace by themselves for years and years. Maybe they've built their distances up, 10K, half marathon, beyond even. But they've never done any interval training and they've never really learned how to run faster. You know what I mean? They might be able to run faster over a very long distance than me or you, but their ability to put on the gas to really sprint finish at the end of a race, or maybe it's just a surge to catch up with a bunch in front of them, because they want to tuck in behind a bunch of people, but they've got to fight through a lot of wind to get to that bunch of people. That's a really important ability, and it's one that I don't think many people really put enough sort of thought into or emphasis on, is how do I actually go faster when I want to go faster. So yeah, I'm really glad, and you really got a very athletic stride now. Once when you do stride out, obviously the challenge is carrying that on for longer. But when we're bringing it back to long distance running, it's just trying to make small changes that are in the right direction, isn't it? It's just picking up the feet a bit more, driving the arms a bit more powerfully, but knowing how to sustain it. So the bottom line of it is, the mechanics are healthy. Do you know what I mean? If the mechanics are not, leading you to put more stress on joints, then, no matter how far you go, it should theoretically all be fine. Good. So the online resource, did you manage to get in and have a look at that?
I did, and it's really useful because you've got different videos for each week. So if you miss a week, let's say you're on holiday or whatever it might be, you've got the opportunity to look at the video. I know you were going to do some voiceovers on the videos as well, so you can, when you come back into a lesson, kind of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's important that, because obviously we talk about all the cues to think about while you're doing the drills, but if we can get those cues, talked over the top of the drills on the videos, and obviously it's a really good refresher for people, especially if they've missed a session, as you say. How about the video assessments? Did you notice that we've put in everyone's video assessments? I got obviously permission from them to do that. I don't suppose you managed to catch any of the other guys' videos, did you?
I didn't actually, no. I was too busy focusing on where I'd sort of either gotten better or worse from the week before. But no, it'll be good to have a look at everyone's videos. I will do that. It's a time thing, but I think going forward, we're not going to be uploading everyone's videos on there for the end of time, because that's a lot of videos. But I think the ideal is to have like the different types of people, I guess, or the different types of faults that people have. So for you, for some people, it could be maybe they've got a similar to your crossover issue, and I can make the title reflect, medial shin pain crossing over.
here's an example of that. And but then another person could have, you know, a wonky arm, right? So one arm swings out to the side, and, you know, here's an example of that. And you can see that if you progress through the assessment, through the sessions, then, you know, slowly we can make changes on it. But yeah, it does help to look at other people's technique. But
yeah,
I think you guys all had a lot to focus on with your own technique for this first ever you know, technique first program that we put on. So are you hoping to get back involved when we do the second one, the summer program? Obviously, we've included that in your arrangement anyway, so you're welcome to.
Yes, I am. I missed 2 of the technique sessions. So I'd love to sort of come back and just have a go at them.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely want to get back involved. I've been saying to everyone on the club run on Sunday, I think they're really, really beneficial, especially if you have a problem with injury, or if you want to get faster. So if you were at a point where you're kind of hitting a wall, I think that's also where they're really useful as well. And I think quite a few people that I've been speaking to are saying, yeah, I do have that problem. So you just, from talking to people, I think the more awareness that we can raise of what actually the benefits you can get out of the course, the better.
Yeah. Good. No, I mean, I think even if you had attended all of those sessions, it's still good to come back and run through it again. Because as you probably noticed, there was a conditioning element, wasn't there? Some of those drills are actually quite hard work, right?
Yeah, some of it is actually, I think we had quite a few comments on the WhatsApp group where quite a few of us were saying, wow, something completely random hurt the day after, and you didn't even realise that was even part of running. It's never hurt before.
Yeah.
But when you're changing your posture and everything else, it is actually sort of quite painful the next day.
Yeah, I think it highlighted a lot of areas that people realised. So, say for example, someone didn't really pick their heels up very naturally. It's your hamstring muscles that do that pick your heels up. Therefore, those people tended to have quite sore hamstrings after doing drills on picking your heels up. But if you imagine the benefit to them, you know, is all of a sudden they've just been smashed 2 sessions on strengthening up their hamstrings, you know, specifically for running. So if they can then, you know, continue to pick their heels up when they run, then you know, hopefully it will, you know, I guess, make that habit easier to build and you know, continue to strengthen the hamstrings. Good. All right. Well, do you have anything else, any other thoughts or maybe recommendations for anyone who's maybe thinking about taking up the summer Technique First program or any future Technique First program?
I definitely would say that it's worth it. I think potentially go in with an open mind. You may learn different things about your running style, and you're not going to fix it overnight. Just because you've learned that you run a certain way, you've then got to kind of invest time into changing it so that it's easier for you going forward.
Absolutely. We spend years developing habits, don't we? So it does take time and effort if you want to make lasting changes. Absolutely. But it's awareness is the first step, isn't it? It's becoming aware, and then it's learning how to make the changes that, you know, that you do want to change. Well, thank you very much, Amy. Great to have you on the program, and we'll catch up with you at the club run soon.